Okay, looks like we're recording well. Welcome to today's webinar, and the topic today, and this is actually my first public webinar for probably a couple of years, although I do them regularly for my private training guys. The topic that we're looking at today is how we can rank a single page on a website, and obviously you can expand that out to the whole website for a lot of different search terms. Now, just a few kind of general prefaces on the following webinar. Everything that I'm about to talk about today will be based on my experience. It's based on the testing that I'm doing right now. Some of it might seem quite controversial when we get into the nuts and bolts of it, but it is based on all of my test results from what we're seeing right at the moment. The other point is that, as you've probably seen if you follow me around the forums, that I tend to do more testing than arguing, so I tend not to get that much involved in debating over different points of SEO, but prefer to go away and do my own testing. So there are a lot of people on the call today, so if I don't get to your question, and we're going to have Q&A at the end, what I'll do is, when this is posted on my blog, please just leave your question as a comment beneath that. You'll get a link to the blog page tomorrow through GoToWebinar, and leave a comment there and I'll get to it and answer your question as quickly as I can. But hopefully, the way I planned the webinar, we'll get through and I'll hopefully answer all of your questions as we get there. So let's get moving. So the training today is basically just one tiny portion of SEO traffic hacks, which is my kind of deep dive SEO training. This is kind of the only plug for it during this particular webinar. I'll just mention it very briefly at the end. You can go to SEOtraffichacks.com, see a whole bunch of proof and evidence and testimonials and rankings and earnings and all that kind of thing. If you join SEO Traffic Hacks, go in and you see the value of that community, or at least get a taste for it. If it's not for you, you can try it out for 7 days, and I'll give you full money back if you're not happy with that. Okay, so enough with the pitch, and let's move on. Now, because of the general nature of the audience on this webinar today, it's probably useful for some of the people on the call if I just give a little bit of context as to who I am and sort of what my background is and who I am to be making all these outrageous statements about SEO that I'm about to. You may or may not know me as the owner of TrafficPlanet.com. That's an SEO forum that's been going for a few years now, and currently we're just closing in on 12,000 members there. You may also know me as the author of the 60-day SEO experiment thread on Warrior Forum, which I think is the last time I checked, is in the top 10 or top 20 most viewed ever threads on Warrior Forum. And I'll just quickly jump over because I want to try out the drawing tool. Where are we here? On GoToWebinar as well over here. Quickly and try out the drawing tools. So if you can see this one here, it's not a very thick pen, is it? This is one here, and basically going back a few years, I ran a whole bunch of SEO experiments over 60 days, and a lot of people really enjoyed it because I think one of the differences about that particular experiment was it was very kind of step-by-step and deep dive, and it was sort of like, you need to do this and then do that, but make sure you watch out for this point, and it was all very kind of process-driven sort of teaching of it. And that's kind of how I do all my SEO teaching, but if you've missed it, it's actually quite a good read, even though the SEO behind it is a bit out of date now. Okay, let me remove that drawing. I also have an SEO agency in London that handles kind of corporate clients, and past clients there include Sainsbury's, the big supermarket chain. I've also worked a lot, not too many people know this probably, but I've worked a lot in gambling SEO, and I don't actually do it anymore because I kind of got bored with everybody trying to rank for the term online casino, but trust me, that's a whole level of difficulty when it comes to gambling SEO, but I have worked a lot in that area in the past. Across all of my my own sites, like affiliate sites and blog network sites and customer sites and client sites, I have access to well in excess of 1,000 sites, the data for those, so I can we can very quickly go and check and figure out changes and things that happen. My core principle, SEO principle, and to be honest, sometimes even I fall down on this and I need to come back to something that, it's easy to fall into that habit of just believing it because a trusted source says it. And it's not that they were necessarily lying or anything, as I'll come to shortly and you'll see. But it's more about the fact that really everything needs to be tested and just assume nothing. And in fact, because we do a lot of testing here, and even just today I was hiring 2 new people, interviewing and hiring 2 new people to run more SEO tests because we're not running enough at the moment. But what you'll see here from the proof as well today, I hope, is that there's actually a huge gap between what Google say they can do and are doing and what they actually are doing. And the size of that gap I find increasingly shocking, and we do, unfortunately, in the SEO community, and I'm guilty of believing this as well, as I say, of if enough people say something is true from these very trustworthy sources, then it must be accurate, it must be factual. But in fact, as I say, when you get back to some serious testing, you can find just that Google is a lot more primitive than what we might be led to believe in 2014. Previously, if it's of any relevance, I worked in advertising as a writer in the past with companies like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Panasonic, Pepsi, and over on the dark side, even a little bit for the banking industry, not that I'm proud of that. And also you may have come across some of my previous SEO training, such as SEO Experts Academy, Backlinks Hydra, which I think is going back to 2010 now, backlinksforum.com. I was one of the 2 originators of that forum, also domain buying black belt and backlinks black belt. There's a lot of black belt going on there. So that just gives you a very quick snapshot of where I've come from and my SEO credentials, if you like. So what do we, that's enough about me. Let's move on to what I see in the state of play in SEO in 2014. So, as I mentioned there's this huge gap between claimed Panda Penguin action and the reality, what's really going on the SERPs. And not too many SEO guys have the luxury of having the testing facilities and resources that I do, but when you do start some serious testing, you do see just how big that gap is. The thing that my most recent thinking now on things like Penguin and Panda, and this is all coming out of a lot of even very fresh testing from the last week or 2 now, which has been very, very revealing. I think what's really at work a lot of the time in our SEO campaigns, and particularly our SEO failures, is not so much Panda or Penguin action, but in fact it's more like what I call a random rankings factor that's programmed into Google. Now that's completely my own term, this is completely my own theory, so you don't need to write in and say that's not true, Matt Cutts never acknowledged that or whatever. This random rankings factor, as I'll explain in a minute, I think is really at the heart of a lot of probably your own SEO failures, and certainly my own SEO failures, more than anything that Google is necessarily, apart from this, algorithmically working in. So what do I mean by this random rankings factor? This is what I mean. I suspect that Google has a inbuilt variation in the search algorithm to keep us off balance, to keep us arguing, to have failures, to have partial successes, and to help, or not so much help, but maintain the fact that SEOs can't develop the perfect SEO blueprint. And this variation means that nothing necessarily works 100% of the time. And a classic example of this, and you probably experienced it personally, is that you can have 2 or more brand new domains with basically identical content quality and identical SEO campaigns, and they actually have completely different rankings outcomes, which shouldn't be the case with something that's theoretically digital. It's either 1 or 0, it's on or off, it works or it doesn't. But I mean, how many SEO software tools or courses have you used where other people were getting good results with it but you weren't, or you were getting good results, the better situation, and they weren't? Or you just tried, for example, a new YouTube SEO strategy that worked brilliantly on one video. You reproduced it as closely as possible on the next video and the next one and the next one, and they all failed to rank. They just didn't move. And I don't think this is kind of niche specific, and I don't even think it's necessarily SEO competition as specific, but I think we've got this variation element here. But the irony about this random rankings factor is that actually we can turn it to our advantage in SEO and make it work for us, and I'm going to go into that much more on a future public webinar like this one. But it's a good concept here and a good bit of context just to have for everything I'm going to talk about today. You'll often see this kind of random rankings factor in the way that kind of garbage sites outrank good ones that have better SEO. And I don't know if you've seen that many search results pages like in Market Samurai, where you've got this, often you'll have very heavyweight sites, very high PR, or a lot of index pages, a lot of backlinks or whatever, and getting beaten by some puny affiliate site with a few pages and hardly any backlinks. It might be more than one. You could see a few of those in a search results page, and I think, obviously they could be hiding their backlinks, there could be more going on there could be 301s and those sorts of things, but I kind of see this too much to think that that's necessarily the reason, and I think instead it's much more likely that this kind of random, it's not so much a penalty, but it's more like a non-ranking factor just put in there. I mean, can you imagine the trouble Google would be in if, for example, you listening to this call today were able to reproduce, to fine-tune the perfect blueprint that worked 100% of the time. Within a week or month or 3 months or 6 months, you'd have thousands, you'd build thousands of websites and basically sort of take over the internet, one person with that blueprint. So I think there's a lot of variation there going on just to sort of keep us off balance. But the thing that I care about, and you should probably care about in your SEO, is it's about results, and results that we can achieve as efficiently as possible. And by efficiently, I mean in terms of time, money, energy, expenditure. And this random rankings factor also affects parasite pages, and I saw that on my paleo diet test in December on my blog, where I had these 2 BuzzFeed pages, and basically I think they had almost identical, not identical content, but identical quality of content and amount of content on the page, and they both had the exact same number of links from the same blog network, and one of them quickly got something like 33 page 1 rankings, and the other one just failed to move, just did absolutely nothing. It couldn't move, and in theory that shouldn't be the case, but again, there was this kind of random element at play. So just to continue on with the state of play, and I'm going to come to this in a future webinar, and probably it will be next week. Google penalties can be sidestepped within 48 to 72 hours, and you don't necessarily need to, unless you're a masochist, to go down the path of trying to get links removed to a website and going through disavowal and begging for forgiveness from Google and trying to get a site removed. It's not the most efficient way to do it, and there is a much better strategy that I want to go through in a separate webinar, and how to get around an algorithmic or manual penalty very, very quickly. It also involves that random rankings factor of making it work for us. the thing is as well, and this is a bit of a tedious argument, but I felt like I should cover it off today, is that in my view there's really no such thing as white hat SEO. Basically, apart from certain expert-based sites or content marketing type sites, and that's not really suited to every niche necessarily. Really, virtually every company trying to rank for decent terms is involved in artificial link building. For me, white hat SEO is more like content marketing, but anytime you're engaging in artificial link building rather than trying to attract links through quality content, and that's content marketing, basically you're just in the realm of kind of normal SEO, which is grey hat, black hat, whatever you want to call it. For me, it's about efficiency and getting results in a kind of consistent way that's reproducible to sort of develop the business. Okay. Also, in my book, anyone who's serious about their SEO has a PBN, which is a private blog network. So basically, you can have a couple of different types of private blog network, and I go into this a lot inside SEO Traffic Hacks, how to buy domains, how to set up the sites, how to set up your networks. But there are a couple of different types you can have. You can just have, for example, these very, very content relevant specific. So let's say, for instance, your client was a pool cleaning company. So you build up a private blog network, and they're all themed around pools and pool chemicals and pool maintenance and that kind of thing, and they all link to your client's site. I mean, it's a very, very normal kind of old-fashioned site, that kind of approach. There's sort of that way of doing it, and typically those blogs would have high PR. They'd be aged domains, expired domains that were purchased through auctions or from domain dealers, something like that. That's one way you can do a PBN, and I do that as well. Another way is to set up a blog network in a way where you just post to the home page. You have the homepage of the blog, typically there's a WordPress blog, set up to have something like 4 to 7 or 10 posts will stay on the homepage, and as new posts come in, they roll off to inner pages. They move away from the homepage, which actually has the PR, because these are typically on expired domains as well. Now, in theory, when you do that and the post with the link in it to your money site moves off the home page, you should see a pretty big decay in rankings if you even got them in the first place. That's in theory. In practice, I find that they are extremely powerful, and my own private blog networks, and obviously you can access public ones as well, but that can be riskier. Private blog networks are the single most powerful SEO weapon that I have, and they're very powerful not just for ranking but for testing as well. So because I know that they work for ranking, I can dream up all kinds of crazy configurations of tests and run those with PBNs and just kind of constantly probing at Google and seeing exactly what is working now and what can be implemented onto sites that we want to rank well. In my view, and again this is probably a bit controversial, I think Google's priorities are not developing the search algorithm that much, and I think they're much more interested in things like Android and advertising, where all the revenue comes from, and even things like I was reading about the other day, the installation of optic fiber networks around American cities, where basically I think the business model is something like they're renting out that infrastructure to cities or companies or whatever it might be. I don't think Google necessarily sees the future as organic search engine business. That's why they're diversifying as much as possible now. And when I look at kind of test results, I don't necessarily see Google as an amazingly sophisticated search engine. And in fact, it falls for a lot of pretty simple kind of manipulative tactics, to be frank. Okay. Also, I think the return on investment of good SEO is still, even now, and I know SEO has been kind of on the run since Panda and Penguin, and a lot of manual penalties, and Google kind of beating its chest a lot. But I still think, and you'll see from the proof examples I'll give shortly, that the return on investment of good SEO is still much better than paid traffic for most people. I think the thing about paid traffic is you need to really develop specialized expertise in it, and you do in SEO as well, of course, but the thing with PPC is all of your experiments cost money. Every time you test, you're having to pay for failures and things like that. And I know you are in SEO as well, of course. Having the SEO testing resources that I do costs money. But it's still, I think, on a considerably lower scale than doing grand kind of PPC tests. Maybe I've got a bit of a anti-paid traffic bias there, but on the whole, I think the ROI of good SEO is still better. But I'm always open to new traffic angles, and if someone can teach me an amazing paid traffic strategy that delivers very, very consistent results and conversions, I'm definitely very open to hearing all about it. Okay, so just to finally add a little bit more context here, and hopefully I've still got you and we're still all tuned in. This is my own approach, and every SEO has their own particular pet favorite methods, and that's completely normal and fine because there are plenty of different ways of achieving similar kind of results in SEO. And I'm not criticizing those guys. If they get results doing it their way, that's fantastic, and I wish them well. For me, ownership of your links is absolutely crucial, and I've sort of been banging the Age Domain PR site drum for a long time now, and they're generally acknowledged as the most powerful in the business. But the key here is, as much as possible, you want to maintain ownership of your links. I mean, if you have clients, for example, who have become complacent with high rankings and think they can survive without you, if you have access to their links that are doing the heavy lifting, you can remove them, turn them off, and their rankings will plummet pretty quickly, and then hopefully they'll be coming back to you looking to re-employ you. Or you might have done, maybe your anchor text isn't that well done. There could be various factors that you want to change. You want to move your priorities to somewhere else. Those PR sites, you want those links to work for a different site. Your business has changed priorities, whatever it might be. If you don't control the links, you can't do that, of course. Now, the one exception to that, which I typically run as a foundational step on a good SEO campaign, is a press release link. So this might be, for example, a PR Web advanced press release run, which is getting backlinks, many of which wind up in the supplemental index, but nonetheless you get a lot of no PR and no follow links as well in there. They're a good foundational step, but the thing is you can't control those. So apart from something like press release links, try as much as possible to maintain ownership of your links. It gives you more power over your business. So the things that influence me are test results and rankings that I see in my portfolio and those of our clients and customers. I tend not to be that tuned into SEO gossip, or especially Google statements increasingly. We do kind of watch and see what everybody is teaching in SEO, and then we go away and test it, and we add our own twist to it and see what else we can combine it with. But really, I strongly urge you to be guided by test results and not just by kind of gossip and necessarily believing everyone else who may just have gotten good results through that random ranking factor, which you may or may not be able to reproduce depending on your own SEO methodology. The thing is, in SEO, I believe, or online business, being an online entrepreneur, your loyalty should really be to traffic-generating vehicles, obviously, that convert, not necessarily the ranking of any one individual website. So I'm going to give a quick example here with Avada, which is the top-selling theme on Theme Forest. So let me just find those guys somewhere here. Unlike some other marketplaces, hopefully you can see that. Okay, let me just enlarge it a bit. Some other marketplaces which are very open to manipulation, these are actually quite accurate, and we can see here, and this has been the case for years now, Avada has held the top spot here sells for $55. They get, I think, about 70% of that. And according to my crude maths calculations, that's about $40,000 plus a week, or about $2 million a year. And Avada have no rankings whatsoever. And in fact, their website, I think, gets very little traffic because Theme Forest is their primary traffic vehicle. And whether traffic coming to Theme Forest came through a YouTube video, a press release, some kind of tutorial blog post or whatever, they wouldn't care as long as that converting targeted traffic kept coming. I think they'd be pretty happy. And that's the right approach, I think, to take to SEO. You need to be loyal to creating and adding and developing or replacing traffic generating vehicles, and not necessarily the ranking of a particular website. I think that being addicted to that ranking of that one company website or business website, it's quite old school thinking, and we've got to be sort of more flexible than that. This is a quote from a great guy in SEO Traffic Hacks. It's my favorite all-time quote now. This is from Tony Golan. And his quote, which I've actually added to, is that my ego or my need to be right is not a factor in Google's search algorithm. And Tony is absolutely right. It's really all about the results, and you can only get that from testing yourself or seeing proof and a good level of test results that are going on. For me as well, I'm not into things like tiered link building because it seems like just far too much effort. I don't deny that it can work, but for me, I'm interested in how few links and how little content are needed to rank highly, and no more than that. I don't want to be endlessly building huge, complex, pyramid-shaped configurations of links. I don't think it's necessary, and I think it's a hell of a lot of work that your time could be spent much better on. Obviously, working on things like conversions is crucial. But my own approach here is minimalism in the number of links and content required. And you'll see in a moment how few links were actually needed to get some pretty astonishing rankings. And kind of ultimately here, almost any niche can be cracked through the vast long tail, and that involves research. And research is kind of at the heart of my SEO mission. I love testing out new things and finding new angles, and the long tail is absolutely massive, and you can certainly target, as I say, almost any niche if you go in through that long tail first. Okay, so before I get on to the how, and this webinar today is all about ranking for a lot of different terms, let's think about typical SEO, and this is definitely what I did for a lot of my kind of SEO career, was to think about when ranking a page, probably the home page, I would target one main keyword and a few secondary keywords. And I have this kind of childish view that a page couldn't rank for more than a few terms. And as you'll see in a moment, they certainly can, but there's a particular way you need to go about it. And the reason I kind of thought that, I guess, is because that was the accepted SEO wisdom, and maybe it is today still to a certain degree. In SEO, we tend to build these kind of limiting beliefs, and when you do some real testing, you find that they're just not true, and you can actually push the boundaries on things a lot more. But that runs into a particular problem, which is how can we bulk track keywords? So, for example, if we are targeting a particular page on a website for 800 different search terms, how do we actually track that if we're doing that on any scale? And how do you do it accurately? This is a real challenge for us, and what we find is that desktop apps like Rank Tracker, for example, you tend to get proxies temp blocked really fast by Google, and very quickly you just stop getting search results. It's just not viable. Or proxy rotation takes insanely long to run, like an hour and a half to do 100 search terms, so it's just not viable. Web-based solutions have quotas, and typically they're not really built or geared towards this kind of SEO where you're trying to go after a lot of terms. So we have a kind of imperfect solution, and you'll see that in a moment with my proof examples, which come from a couple of different platforms. So we're using a combination of microsite masters, which is a paid monthly subscription, which has various package levels. Advanced web ranking, we've just started using, and in fact the first example I'll give in a moment comes from their interface. We also use Rank Tracker, and we also use Hide My Ass VPNs as well. We're kind of trying every jigsaw piece in different combinations, trying to get it to work, and it works a bit of the time, but the upshot of all of that is that we actually can't track all of the rankings. We may have rankings, but these limitations mean that it's difficult to know, and it takes a lot of painstaking work to actually find all of the terms we rank for. It's a good problem to have and kind of shows how well this strategy works, as you'll see in a moment, but unfortunately we can't actually know all of the rankings we get. And part of the problem with that is that Google has been blocking keyword data in analytics now for quite some time, and you can still see just like a tiny bit of keyword information, but you can't look at your Google Analytics, or for me I use Stat Counter, and now I'm just adding in PWIC as a kind of double checker. But if I go to my Stat Counter account, for example, there are not that many keywords there, but when a new one does crop up, that can be an interesting one that you could potentially target with a bit more SEO. So that's kind of one of the issues that I'm facing when I give the following proof results here. So here is a 2-month-old site. This is a home page here. This is from Advanced Web Ranking. And on this particular niche, by the way, this entertainment niche is fully revealed and discussed inside SEO Traffic Hacks as well. And it's the same niche from the SEO Traffic Hacks sales page that brought in almost $4,000 in December. So we can see here I'm tracking 805 keywords in my Advanced Web Ranking account. We've got 7 top 3 positions, 26 in the top 5, 170 terms. Now obviously not all of those are huge traffic numbers. Some of them might be 50s or 100s or higher, some of them like 40,000, so on. In the top 20, 229 rankings for one page. So if you are aware of kind of your current rankings for your precious money sites, which might have 3 rankings in the top 10, can you imagine how it might transform that business if you had something like 100, well in this case 170 top 10 rankings? I don't think the top 20, those page 2 ones, necessarily going to bring that much traffic unless they're just indicative of other long tails that you're going to be appearing for in the top 10. But very, very few sites, especially a new 2-month-old site, have anything like 170 top 10 rankings. And that came about through this strategy that I'm about to go into. So on this next site that I'm about to show you, I've obviously blocked out the name here because I need to protect my blog network sites that are doing the SEO work on it. This site was actually created on the 24th of March, so I guess that's like 2 weeks ago, maybe just slightly less, so 2 weeks ago, applying these principles that I'm about to teach. So this is in a kind of shopping-related niche. And we can see here, since that new site was created, you can see, actually let me get my pen out, or let's try the pen, the highlighter, right? So we've got this column here. I'm very bad at drawing, obviously. Yeah, that's it. So we've got this column here. This comes from Microsite Masters. So on this 2-week-old site, we can see the kind of prize rankings here, position 2 for a 33,000 search term. We've got number 3 here for 2,400, and all in all, this one has, that I know about, 51 page 1 rankings for that one, and that's 2 weeks old. This is the same page, but here in Microsite Masters, I've sorted it by search volume. So some of these big terms here, it's not that relevant for, but they were sort of, I don't know, they were kind of included in the keyword research. But even to get to 17 on a 1 million search term within 2 weeks, we've got position 4, 8,000 there, that 2,400. 1900, position 3, 1300 down here, position 5. Let me just erase that. So we can see down here, we've got all these, and they all add up. They all add up to decent traffic. You know, position 2 here on a 720 term. It's just one page ranking and ranking and ranking for all these different terms. Let me just turn off my pen before moving on. This one is also in the entertainment niche. This is a page, so it's not the home page. It's a 3 to 4 week old new page. Same niche but different product from the previous site here. And again, we can see that we've got 27 page 1 rankings already, including this. The highlight here is this number 5. Actually, that's not a good pen. This one here. We've got this here, position 5 for almost 50,000 a month search terms. Position 6 on 8,100 there. 7 on 1,000, but they kind of add up. 20 page 2 rankings at the moment. And in this case here, we're seeing sites that are not affected by that random ranking factor. They're kind of slipped through. You know, they're doing very well, and with more links, those 20 page 2 terms and a few others can certainly be pushed up. Let me just get rid of that, turn that pen off. Same page, again, toggled by higher search volume. So 3 to 4 weeks old, I've gotten onto page 2 for a 368,000 search term. There's that 5th position, 49,000. Looking down here, you know, position 4 on a 720, position 7 on 1,000. As I say, they all add up. Still in one of my favorite entertainment niches, again, completely different page, but created about the same time as the previous example here. So this one, we've got 24 known page 1 rankings, couldn't test any more. The highlight is here, where we have position 4 for a 90,000 a month search term. Pretty sweet. You know, number 6 for 1,000, number 6 for 27,000, number 6 for 3,600 here, number 8 for 2,400. This is a site that Google clearly thinks is relevant for a lot of related and similar but separate search terms, and we want to be accessing all those different pools of traffic. So pen goes off. Turn it off. There we are. Same page, just toggled by high search volumes again. So I think we've covered the highlights there. We can see good rankings there. Some have missed. You know, that's inevitable, but we've picked up a lot, and I think anyone who had, let me just go back, on a page that was 3 to 4 weeks old, you know, 24 page 1 rankings like that, including top 5 for 90,000, you'd be pretty happy. So clearly this strategy works and works over and over. So now we need to get to the how, and here's where we're going to get into some pretty controversial stuff. And I do expect a bit of heat when we get to the Q&A or the comments. That if you joined the call late, I'll put this recording on my blog. You'll receive a link to it tomorrow from GoToWebinar. And underneath that recording, if I've missed your questions tonight, please just post them as comments and I'll get to them as quickly as I can. But there are just too many people on the call today to answer every single question. So how do we do it? How do we get all of those rankings? Well, here we need to have an open mind and just kind of go by the test results. And this was a biggie for me, and I had to really practically undergo neurosurgery to get this, get my head away from this way of thinking. We need to forget pretty much about on-page content. We need to forget about quantity, quality, social sharing, user engagement, metrics, images, videos, and believe me, I've been teaching that stuff for a long time. Forget all of that. It doesn't matter. This whole idea of, Panda is everywhere, and just one thing, Matt Cutts has stated for the record recently, and actually I'll put the video under the recording link on my blog post tomorrow. He said that even though Penguin runs periodically, Panda has basically been integrated into Google so that it's running continuously, and the rankings and test results I see suggest that that's complete nonsense and just not true. And in fact, the last two examples there that I showed you had less than 120 words of text on the page and ranked brilliantly. There was no question about the on-page content having any bearing whatsoever on those rankings. Now, some SEO guys do teach that if you want to go after more page rankings, you do need to weave in these different terms into your into your pages in order to be shown to be relevant, and maybe that method works for them, but I've found you just do not need that. There's actually a more important and powerful signal that you can give Google. So while Panda doesn't matter, Google's random rankings factor does matter, and that's why there's a bit of trial and error needed, and that's what I'm going to come to in more detail on a future webinar. It's just too much to cover in this one because we're dealing with a different subject. What we need to do to get those kind of rankings is focus instead on deep dive keyword discovery for your anchor texts. It's all about the links. Even in 2014, it all comes back to the links and the way that you use your anchor text for the links. In my view, the Google Keyword Planner should be more truthfully renamed the Google Keyword Hider, because it actually hides a lot of great keywords from us, and we need to do a few kind of workarounds to really dig in and find what the great clusters of related terms are that we can access different pools of traffic for. It used to be, and I blogged about this, you could get up to 10,000 search results at once in the Google Keyword Planner, but now it's around 800-ish. The number kind of goes up and down a bit. So the Google Keyword Planner mainly just tells you results for the terms that you enter, but in fact that's not the best way to use it, as I'll show you in a moment. So what I do is I currently use Keyword Snatcher, which is I think it's a Jonathan Ledger tool, and this isn't an affiliate promotion for him at all. If you go there and buy it, I get absolutely nothing. So I use Keyword Snatcher, and I also use URL searches from the winners in the SERPs. So in a moment I'm going to show you an example with Cellulite. So what I would do, what I do there is to go and look up Cellulite. I look at the top 3 sites and I put those URLs into the Google Keyword Planner, and I see what ideas Google thinks those websites are relevant for, and then I do some extra kind of research based on those new terms that I find that were hidden when I just used keywords rather than URLs. So let's jump in and have a look actually at this Cellulite demo. So here we are. I'm searching from Bulgaria, so I need to use Google Global here. I need to use a special string to get US results, which may or may not be the same as what you're getting there. And we can see this WebMD page right here. Let me get my pen out. So we've got this site here. So what I do is I want to copy this URL and I want to put it into the Google Keyword Planner. And so that's the site there. And I will come over. If I did, firstly, I've already done, it's a bit like a cookery show, I've already done one for you. This is for the search term Cellulite. So you can see here a bunch of, and this is sort of by relevance. These are the ones that Google thinks are the most relevant. And they're perfectly fine, but really they're too narrow, and in fact we can access a lot more pools of traffic. So here you can see, let me grab that highlighter again. I put the page in up here, clicked on Get Ideas, So now I'm not searching by keyword, but I'm searching by landing page, and the ones that Google already likes is going to give me more terms to work with that I can either discard or research further and include in my list of anchor text. So, for example, on the WebMD page, if I scroll down, I'm going to see terms here like this ionothermy. I have no idea what that is. Could be a brand. I've got Revitol down here, which is also a brand. And the thing I love as an affiliate about brands is that I'm really only interested in promoting brand products that already have traction in the marketplace. The last thing, from a conversion point of view, the last thing I want to do is be building the brand of somebody else as an affiliate. And what I'd rather do is capitalize on the brand equity they've already built, and people coming to that page are to a certain extent already pre-sold, or at least more than someone coming to a product they've never heard of. So here we've got this Revitol cellulite cream here, but if I go back to cellulite, under the most relevant results, Revitol wasn't here. And there's another one there like Velashape or something. Velashape here, this could be another brand who are active in the cellulite market. ProCellex here, this is another brand. And I also noticed, though I don't think it's actually relevant, if I come back here, actually I didn't mean to toggle that. Even other terms that are different but related to the one that I'm searching for. So, for example, here we had stretch mark removal, which I don't think is necessarily that relevant to cellulite. I don't profess to be an expert on that topic at all. But back on our cellulite search, that wasn't here. It may be much further down if we keep digging and digging, but it didn't crop up as one of the most obvious choices. And sometimes you will possibly find those there if you dig down deeper, but a lot of times you just won't see these other related pools, that terms that can just bring you a whole other clump of traffic by suggesting relevancy through your anchor text. So here, for example, that's what Keyword Snatcher looks like, and you can see there I've just let it run earlier. If I let it keep going, it'll probably just come up with tens and tens of thousands of search terms. And if I open up one of its downloaded text files, we can see in here references to estrogen. Now, I didn't see that on either of the other two search results yet. Maybe it's there if I dig a lot more, but maybe it isn't. And also here, I've got a Nivea product. Nivea is a big brand. That could be, if I go to markethealth.com, for example, they might have some of these that I can promote as an affiliate. And just by scrolling through there, I'm going to just come up with some terms there that I can come and put. So if I come back to here and just put Revitol in and get ideas on that one. Actually, it's not a website, of course, is it? So now Revitol gets 5,500 searches a month. Now they have products not just for cellulite but for different things, but now I've got something to work with here, and it could well be that I have a specific page on my website dedicated to Revitol and another one to a different company, the other ones that we saw before. And I couldn't get that information just from doing a conventional Google Keyword Planner search there. So that's kind of in the discovery section. So next up, we want to find those, I just call them like a related keyword cluster for cellulite. So as we saw there from that quick demonstration, we had terms like Revitol, brand, Velashape, sounds like a brand, ProCellex, brand. There was the term cellulitis. Earlier I came across a cellulite brush, a device for helping cellulite. I don't think it was on the cellulite search, but it was there under the WebMD. So we're going to dig up these terms, and we want to just compile a list because these will form anchors for anchor text for the links that we run. So hopefully that gives you some insight how you can just dig up a lot more information and get a lot more rankings. So what we then need to do is to sift by the relevance and search volume and kind of see what we really want to use for anchors, because a lot of the terms we won't necessarily use, and even if we've got you know, a link or a small number of links for a certain keyword cluster, that could be enough to get us ranking for a lot more long tails in that section, you know, in that in the search, you know, the whole search amount. So now that I've chosen my anchor text, in a minute I'll come to an exact anchor text breakdown. The best results for me, as I've said, are blog network links using those anchors from above. So by blog network links here, I'm talking about posting to a PR blog network. The PR doesn't have to be super high. My private testing one and the one that's getting all those results you saw above is like PR2 to PR4, nothing higher than a PR4 at the moment in there, but there's enough links and enough of this carefully selected targeted anchor text to give those kind of that diversity of rankings or terms covered. It's absolutely nothing to do with on-page content. Yeah, so to summarize here, it's really, and I know this is kind of pretty retro for 2014, but it's the links, it's the anchor text on those links that are giving you the ranking, diversity, the reach. So here's what my eventual 50 anchors. So what I would do is to do a 50 post blog network run, and I would run it all at once. I wouldn't worry about delaying it. I just hit them all at once. And that's what happened with the previous sites that I showed. What would happen if they were ranking well and I wanted to push them up further, I hit them with another 50 and then maybe another 50. And I might wind that down to 25s and then look to just kind of permanent homepage backlinks, which I would normally build at a slower rate, but already so much of the heavy lifting had already been done. So out of my 50 anchors, what would they look like? I'm going to have a URL link in there, just the raw URL to the website. 3 to 4 generics like read more information, website, click here. But the rest are all from the above keyword research, including Revitol, Velashape, Prosilix, cellulitis, cellulite brush terms. All of the ones that I'd researched and checked. I liked the volume, the audience fit was right, you know, it was relevant for the audience coming to that page. The ones that were concealed by the Google Keyword Planner. I wouldn't repeat anchors because every anchor, every link there could potentially give me access to a new pool of traffic through a different keyword cluster. So for example, one link or a few links of Velashape might be enough to get me a bunch of Velashape long tail rankings on page 1, could potentially be. So no anchors repeated. So we come back to the fact here that links as signals are as powerful as ever. Forget about Panda and forget about the complexity of the algorithm. It's still largely about the links. And I know that's kind of controversial and heresy, but the test results don't lie, and that's definitely what I'm seeing here. Now, where are you going to get the blog network links would be the next obvious question. Now, my highest recommendation is you actually build your own private blog network, and I do cover that a lot in SEO Traffic Hacks. Or you can go with riskier public options, and Google does target these from time to time. They hit Anglo Rank, was hit on Black Hat World, I think, a while back, very publicly named and shamed and targeted. Jacob Hagberg's seslingshot.com, again, I'm not in any way affiliated with that service. I get nothing if you use it. Has delivered very, very consistent results for me, but it is a public network and it's not cheap to get those blog network runs either. So in the long run, I really do encourage you to commit to developing the expertise, which I can train you in building your own private blog networks and how to host them and how to operate them and manage them. But they are such a powerful weapon, not just for ranking, but for testing as well. So that's where they come from. If you go to seslingshot.com, you can probably see a bunch of cheaper versions on Wikidfire or Traffic Planet. You can probably see cheaper versions there, so you just kind of use your own due diligence process to go through and try those out. But blog network links on PR sites do work exceptionally well, and that's really that's all I had going with those previous results there, was just blog network links. That was it. Okay, so that's it, all the secret sauce. Just a final reminder now before we jump into some deep Q&A that SEOtraffichacks.com, if this training is valuable to you, you want to see how to get these kind of results, and there's a ton more content in there on monetization. We do weekly webinars on the tests and everything else that's important and happening. Ton of great information there, a really good community, just lots and lots of very up-to-the-minute training. So go in. If you don't like it, within 7 days, let me know. Full money back, no hard feelings at all. Okay, so let me just move on to a Q&A. So just again, I'll take some questions, but there'll be quite a few. So if I miss your question now, I please encourage you to go to my blog post tomorrow and post your question as a comment, and I'll get to it as quickly as I can. So I'm going to pick out some questions that I think are the most useful for the most people on the call, and then we'll wrap it up because we're sort of hitting the hour there. Let me have a look here because I'm doing my own question moderation. Paul has asked a really interesting question. Paul is an SEO traffic hacker, if I can call Paul that. Am I saying that the PBN sites do not necessarily need to be in the same niche to be successful? Exactly, Paul. You have kind of two separate stages of your SEO campaign or process, and the slingshot type PBN, those sites are not relevant for anything. And if that seems problematic, if we think about a site like BBC News, for example, if you look at their homepage, you'll see a story about Ukraine, you'll see a story about a footballer, you'll see a story about a banking boss who just got sacked in London, something that the Prime Minister has done. It's a mishmash of sort of topics there. In theory, we don't have that topic relevance on that type of PBN, but the results don't lie. It doesn't matter. What matters is that those sites have some general page rank. The topic doesn't matter. I mean, I think one of the sites we'd been using was like about, actually I wasn't super happy that we bought it. It seemed wasn't in the best taste, but it was sort of about Indigenous employment somewhere, like an Indigenous employment agency, but it had PR, and my team had bought it. And that was just one small but valuable link in this PBN chain. So you do not need, for that kind of step in the process, which is before your permanent homepage links, which clients, if you're doing it for clients, they probably want to see that sort of PBN. But that the first type, the slingshot type, where you just keep posting to your homepage and then go into inner pages, do not need to be relevant at all. Deborah has asked about Avada. She's missed what I said about Avada. It's basically the best-selling WordPress theme of all time ever, Deborah, that's all, and they weren't relying on one single traffic vehicle necessarily, so it was all about getting around things like Google penalties, which I'm going to cover in the future as well. Someone has said this is heresy, and there is going to be a recording on the post on my blog tomorrow, so I'm just trying to read and talk at the same time. Chris has asked a really good question. With this technique, say you get to the second page of the SERPs, but it sticks there for one specific keyword. How would you push it to the first page without repeating the anchor text? let's say we were going after cellulite treatment as our main keyword, and this is the term that we're stuck on page 2 for. What I would look at, Chris, is another related term that also has search volume, like cellulite treatment plan for women over 50, or cellulite treatment course, something like that. So you're actually kind of weaving it in there and double barreling your how you're using those anchors there. Okay, let me just go have a look through the questions here. Paul has asked, can you connect me to a good domain broker? We actually have one in SEO Traffic Hacks, but he's been sick a lot lately, but normally we're moving to a point of getting them more consistently. Let's see, I've got a question here, anonymous. How many blogs would you recommend in a PBN? Great question. The runs that I do, I actually see results even with a run of 25 posts can work if it's going to work, if you don't hit that kind of random ranking factor filter, which is a lot of Fs. Even 25 could be enough for testing purposes and ranking purposes. I think 50 is I'm a kind of a brute force SEO tester, and I hit it hard, and quite often I'll even hit it with 100 or 120 links in one go just to kind of watch what happens. But you could do it with 25. Potentially, if you're getting PR2 to 4 sites on how you buy them, you could get out of that with change under $1,000 putting that together. Okay, moving on here. Let's just take a few more questions. Nellie has asked, what was the tracking tool being used that showed the rank search volume tracking? I used a couple, Nellie. I used Microsite Masters, and I also used Advanced Web Ranking, which we've just started trying. Mark has asked, as far as anchor text, are you using just the brand, Revitol, or longer anchors, Revitol Cellulite Cream? It would depend. The problem with Revitol example, and it was just hypothetical, Mark, is that Revitol have a lot of different products. So actually ranking there may not be as helpful. But if it was a brand-specific one, if that Vela Shape, for example, was just cellulite cream, I would go after that as well. And you saw on one of the ranking results there was a search term that had over 1 million results, which is more like a general term, kind of sort of like a brand. And it got onto page 2, and that was from 50 posts. So the brand one can be good, but just think about it. Do you actually want to rank for that term or not, or is that a bit of a waste and you want something a bit more targeted? Let's see here. Rahat has asked, on average, how many links do we need to rank a low competition site? Could be as few as 25, maybe less. Could be less, Rahat. Typically, my testing runs are 25 to 50. When I've used less than that, the results are less spectacular. So maybe on low competition, you can rank with fewer than that. You've got a bunch of questions, Rich, and I do want to get to them. Don't mean to ignore you there. Rich has asked, actually, can you expand on recovering from penalties so quickly? I want to go through a full, proper discussion of that, Rich, and my plan is to actually have a webinar on that topic at the same time next week, but I will confirm that through the follow-up email that comes from GoToWebinar. Paul Clark has said, thanks Terry, SEO Traffic Hacks is awesome, worth every penny. Thank you, Paul, I appreciate that. Now Stan has asked a question. When you say a blog network run of 50 posts, can you elaborate on that? How many blog network blogs are you posting to 50? And are you posting all 50 of the same post and content to all of them? Typically, it's spun content, highly spun content, so even the quality of the text on those backlinks isn't great. So when I say a 25 blog network post run, that's going to 25 blogs, 50 blog posts is going to 50 sites with highly spun content and an anchor text link in each one. At the moment, we use Article Marketing Robot, which I think is $97 as a one-off purchase, but it's kind of pretty ancient, to be honest. It's okay-ish for what we need, but we desperately want to move to something else, and we're looking to other options, including building our own platform as well. Okay, we'll just cover, see we're going past the hour, and some great questions here. Let's just look at 3 more, and then please, if we can just post your questions as comments under the blog post tomorrow. Alex has asked, and this is a really valid question because everything I do is about trying to minimize the cost and make it sort of doable and within reach for sort of the, don't want to say smaller entrepreneur, but you know, if your resources are more limited. Alex has asked, how much investment is needed to follow this plan, hosting costs, etc. Buying, for example, 25 PR2 to PR4 domains using the techniques that I describe in the course, you could be paying something like $25 each for those domains. Then you need to host them. So depending on whether you go for a lot of small individual hosting companies, which are a massive hassle to deal with, or you go with a lot of IPs at an SEO hosting company, you're probably going to be looking at something between $3 to $5 per month per site to keep them apart. So you might be there looking at, you know, $100 a month in hosting as well, plus the original purchase of the domains, plus your time in setting those up. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a ballpark. Obviously, if you want to scale up from there, Alex, you need to multiply that. Let's see. Last couple of questions. Covered that one, Stan, I hope, with the previous reply, one couple back. Here's a great question, Matt Wiggins. Matt has said, would you recommend trying to rank a new branded site, a PR domain you've repurposed, or a parasite page? Super question. For ages, I've been the repurpose a PR domain guy, and even recently I've still done a few. But now, right at the moment, I'm seeing brand new, fresh domains that I choose a branded name for, working extremely well with blog network links. So I actually don't see the need for repurposing a PR domain, which is good news because I can use that now as a source of links instead. The thing about parasite pages is, I mean, they are a great option for expanding your reach on page 1. Excuse me. You can do that. The only drawback, one of the main drawbacks there, Matt, of course, is that isn't under your control. If there's a change in policy or someone like Zimbio decides that they're going offline or changing their whole business, you've got to kind of recreate that. So for me, this is quite a big shift now in the business that with new branded domains that I can control, have complete control over, I would much prefer to fire those up even than parasites, unless I was trying to crack a really difficult niche and I thought a PR web press release, for example, is going to just give me more traction. But at the moment, I'm seeing great results with brand new domains. And what I'm actually trying, what we've been testing this week, because GoDaddy had a sale on .us domains, and they were $3.99 each. And if you're buying a lot for testing purposes, that money kind of adds up. But interestingly, so far, the .us ones are not doing very well. But .coms, like all of the examples above, doing great. But .us, not so well. Now, that might change. We're obviously watching it over the next week or so. But at the moment, interestingly, those new .us not doing well. Okay, let me just, there are tons of questions here, many great questions, and sorry I can't get to them all. That's just not physically possible. But let me just look at one last question here, and I do apologize if I've missed your question. It's no reflection on the quality of it, it's just the sheer volume of it here. Mark has asked, does the post have to stay on the home page, or can they fall off this blog networks? Well, there are at least two kinds of blog networks. One is the one where they fall off the home page, and that's the one I'm talking about here, and the one that gave all the results that you saw above. And then the other one is the long-term that's not as dramatic, but where they do stay on the home page, and I would add those links at something like 1 to 3 links per day. Kind of typically we'll do that like Monday to Friday. But that's a little bit later in the SEO campaign. But for those kind of testing, probing runs at Google to see, you know, if this site is going to rank or whether it's been picked up by some random factor there that means that it won't, and we've all had websites like that, that no matter what we do, no matter how good the content was, they just won't rank, they just won't shift. So these ones, it just depends on how you configure it, Mark, but my best advice, if you're thinking of building it or using this methodology, is to just get that blog network where they do roll off the home page, but you want volume. So if you can, if it's the stronger SEO competition, go for that 50 or even 100 post blog network run. So thank you everyone for coming to this webinar. I will confirm in the follow-up email from GoToWebinar tomorrow about another webinar this time next week that covers how to recover from a Google penalty, be it manual or algorithmic, within 48 to 72 hours. And it's pretty cool when you can do that, if you have that knowledge. So thank you for coming, and I hope to see a lot of these questions also on the comments of the post tomorrow. So if I don't catch up with you there, hopefully I'll see you either inside SEO Traffic Hacks or on the webinar next week. Thank you for coming.